Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. So glad you're here and you're listening into the podcast. As I say all the time, I really appreciate you and especially thank you for helping us get ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. Thank you so much. And it would be a great help if you could just share the podcast with a friend, rate, review, and help us keep going. All right. So now today it's a solo episode. I will be sharing some reflections as I did in the last episode because this day that the episode goes live happens to be New Year's Day. And as I mentioned in the last episode, although this is a specific reflection for this day, it also applies for any time or any day, no matter when you listen to it. But because it's going live on New Year's Day, I'm going to share a reflection that is, framed around the idea of New Year's Day and how to let go and start anew. And so I was thinking of a fond memory I had of growing up in our New Year's Day tradition in my family. And I mentioned before in other episodes how I'm from Connecticut and, this big extended family, we all kind of lived together and spent a lot of time together. And so on New Year's Day, we would go gather at my Aunt Erlin's house. Now, Aunt Erlin was my favorite aunt. And I don't know, she was just the nicest person I've ever met. I mean, everybody said that about her, and it was just true to her nature. And somehow, from the time I was a little girl all the way up through my young adult years until she passed around that time. So, but all those years growing up, whenever I saw her or engaged with her in any way, I had a sense that she really loved me. Now, I'm sure lots of adults in the family really loved me, but she had a special way of making that known. And to all of us, my guess is if I asked my sister and my cousins right now, they would say, yeah, yeah, we got that feeling too. So anyway, she was just such a delight. And we would all gather at her house, huge extended family. I don't know how many people, maybe 30 people, adults, young adults, and smaller kids, and we'd just be playing games. The little kids would be in the basement area, and then the kind of teens and the young adults would be in the other areas, and the full grown adults would be in the kitchen gathered around the food and talking and laughing and drinking. And I distinctly remember my cousin Pat in the kitchen, and she seemed to me every year had some deep and meaningful thoughts on the social issue of the time and of the day. And she was one of the smartest people I knew. And at the time, when I was a smaller child, I couldn't really appreciate, the wisdom, no doubt, that she was sharing. But when we were teenagers, we would talk about, oh, Pat's always talking about issues. She's always talking about issues. We weren't so interested in hearing about those social issues. But that was the kind of conversation, and there was always so much food and good food and laughter and joy every New Year's Day. And for me, for several of those years, the night before, I would venture to say most of those years, the night before on New Year's Eve, I had gone to church. Okay, I said most of those years. There were a few years in there where I didn't get to church on New Year's Eve. I was at a party, but it was just a few years in between. Church in my early years, parties a little bit later, and then I went back to church. All right. So the church service on New Year's Eve was called a watch night service. Do you know this term, watch night service? It's a service rooted in African American religious traditions dating back to 1862. And there's a whole history about that, but I won't get into that right now. But what I will say for now is while I was growing up and in my young adult years, Watch Night Service was a service that encouraged reflection on the past year, both its trials and its triumphs, while anticipating what the new year will have in store. And it was a solemn service, and it was a sort of an encouragement of releasing the year. And I felt like that. I felt like, and I know time is basically just a calendar, right? And clocks. But I felt like the year was we were letting go and that it just once we left that service, the year was gone and just released. So that was the night before. That was New Year's Eve. And then the next day, we would all gather at Aunt Erlen's house. And it was such a wonderful family tradition. It was one of my favorites. And I just loved the way it marked the beginning of what felt like a brand new season of life there at my aunt's house. All right. So now fast forward to my current thinking about New Year's Day. It's more than just the beginning of a calendar year. It's a powerful opportunity for personal growth and transformation. That's how I think about it now. It's a fresh start, a clean slate, a chance to release anything from the past that no longer serves us. I mean, we all know how easy it is to fall into old patterns of thought and behavior that keep us stuck or hold us back. But when we embrace the energy of New Year's Day, we open ourselves up to the possibility of becoming more aligned with who we truly are and who we are meant to be. As human beings, we're constantly evolving. Our minds, bodies, spirits are all on their own journeys of growth. So, in order to stay in step with that evolution, with that growth, we need to let go of things that no longer serve our highest good. That might mean letting go of old beliefs, limiting habits, or anything that's holding us in the past. When we release what's no longer working, we create space for new opportunities. And that's the only way it happens. So when we release what's no longer working, we create space for new opportunities, new ways of thinking, being, and living, ways that are in alignment with our authentic selves. This is where New Year's Day becomes a time to take a step back and really look at where we are and where we want to go. It's a perfect time to let go of what no longer fits so we can embrace the next chapter with intention and clarity. Now, this doesn't mean we need to completely overhaul our lives. It's about making small, intentional shifts that bring us closer to who we truly are at our core. So you might be saying, well, yeah, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Well, one powerful way to do this is to focus on one specific area of your life. So just take one area to focus on, whether it's family or relationships or personal growth or career. Just pick one area you feel called to transform and focus on that. And once you've chosen that area, ask yourself this question for reflection. What's one thing in this part of my life, the part you chose, what's one thing in this part of my life where I have not been showing up as my true self, as my authentic self? It could be something like not setting clear boundaries in your relationships or ignoring your own needs in your career or not prioritizing your own personal growth. Whatever it is, just pick that one thing in that one area of life that you've not been showing up as your authentic self, and then write it down. Once you have it written down, make a commitment to let it go. So commit to letting it go today. This is the moment to make a promise to yourself to release the old and make space for the new. Now, after you've written down what you're letting go of, take a moment to imagine. And we talked about imagine in the last episode. Take a moment to imagine what you'd love your life to look like in this area, aligned with your true self. Imagine what that would feel like. And then write that down too. And then commit to taking the first step toward making it a reality. And maybe the first step is as simple as having a difficult conversation, setting a clear goal, or just carving out some time for you. Whatever it is, it's a step toward bringing your true self to life in that particular area of your life. The energy of New Year's Day gives us a unique opportunity to reflect, release, and reset. It's a moment to check in with ourselves, to release the old and step into the new. And by taking intentional action, we align ourselves more fully with the flow of life, creating space for all the possibilities that are waiting for us. So let go of what no longer serves you. Embrace who you truly are and take that first step toward making your vision a reality. It is possible. It is all possible starting today. Okay, that's our episode for today. And if it resonated with you, share it with a friend or leave a review. And I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. So connect with me on LinkedIn or your favorite social media channel. But I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. But my channel handle is the same on all of them at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD. So send me a connection request on LinkedIn. And remember, let go of what no longer serves you so you can start anew. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.